even if your child or your partner or yourself do have ADHD, everyone is capable of starting new routines, of starting habits that can be helpful for them to implement.
Welcome to Reframe and Reclaim. We are Courtney Huckabee, a psychotherapist,
and Jen Harris, an interior designer
who have teamed up to reflect,
challenge,
and reframe your mindset in relationship with your personal belongings.
Join us as we discuss and declutter all of the stuff that keeps us stuck.
Learn to intentionally create environments with improved function and design that cultivate peace of mind. Find the reframe.
Start your reclaim.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Reframe and Reclaim. I'm Jen Harris.
And I'm Courtney Huckabee.
And today, it's October. It's also National ADHD Awareness Month.
Yes. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about ADHD and the home. It's so important, especially as we're getting closer to the holidays, you know, when things get busier with our schedules. Mm-hmm. Sometimes our homes get fuller of decorations or people. And so really talking about how to support those who do have ADHD or neurodivergence, and some skills, some strategies, some tactics and tips to help us to just cope better with some of the craziness and fun and excitement that can come along with the fall and all of our holidays coming up.
Yes, because things, you stay up late or, you don't get to clean up this section of the house after company comes right away and can kind of throw off your schedule like you were saying. But it seems like everything I've been seeing on like social media and stuff like that is how like everybody has ADHD, and it seems to be like the numbers are increasing. And so can you help shed a light on that?
Yes. So I will say with the use of social media, with the use of the internet, the world's getting a lot smaller. We get a lot more information, and then people are starting to do a whole lot of, oh, that sounds like me, or I know somebody who is, or because I may have one symptom or one challenge that encompasses ADHD, I must have ADHD
right?
too.
It's like Instagram has become the WebMD, right? It's like...
Yes, it is so easy to look things up, which is wonderful for education and learning. However, not everything on the internet is, one, true, or two, always going to be completely associated with your experience. And so definitely want to shed some light that not everybody does have ADHD. According to the Centers for Disease Control, 2024, 2025, the numbers were about 11.6 children in the United States are actually diagnosed with a true ADHD clinical diagnosis.
And that's 11.6%.
11.6%, yes. And then adults, only 6% are clinically diagnosed with ADHD.
Well, that seems a lot lower than what I've seen on the internet.
I know. And I am a mental health therapist. I have people coming in all the time. I think my 4-year-old has ADHD. I think my 5-year-old has ADHD.
I think I have ADHD.
Right. And I tell parents a lot of times, every 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 3-year-old, very young, they are going to have a short attention span. They're not going to be able to focus as well. They're not going to be able to sit down and, stay still. That's not developmentally appropriate. However, some of these adults that come in too, they're like, I can't focus, I can't concentrate. And so we're going to talk about in your home some of the strategies if you do have ADHD and a clinical diagnosis, or if you're finding that you just have some symptomology of ADHD, how you can help better cope, create some systems and strategies for you to have a little bit more self-regulation, a little more focus, and less dysregulation.
I think everybody could use that right now.
I mean, I could use that right now, and I think that a lot of people don't understand what ADHD always is.
Right, and then you layer the holidays on top of that again with schedules being off, and it can just make you feel like you're spiraling, right? So what can people do, or how do they go about understanding what ADHD is?
So ADHD is a clinical diagnosis for people who their brains are looking at so much information that they get overwhelmed with everything. Their brain doesn't know exactly what is most important. And so with this, you'll get somebody who is focusing on a conversation and then sees something over here and focuses over there and then over
Squirrel.
there. Right. It happens to me, but I am not clinically diagnosed with ADHD. So the idea with ADHD is people say, well, I can't focus. And that's not actually true for people with ADHD. They have so much information coming in, they don't know what to filter. And so if you're having a hard time with focus or attention or distractibility, it could be an ADHD diagnosis, but it also could be stress. It also could be routines or habits that I've created in my life. And so we're going to talk about how to help us if we do have ADHD in the home, just to create a little bit more of that groundedness, because that's hard for a lot of people with ADHD.
And would you say there's other influences that, I know you mentioned stress and things like that, but even like caffeine or other dietary things that could be affecting people and dysregulating them?
Yes. So ADHD is also a diagnosis that is usually comorbid with other diagnoses as well. So you talk about anxiety. Anxiety and ADHD, they're kind of like tag teamers. The ADHD brain is kind of overwhelmed, overstimulated, and so needing a little bit of less stimulation. But also there's some habits of, people who drink too much caffeine, their brains are going to like skyrocket and go on overdrive. So with caffeine, somebody with ADHD, it actually reduces the amount of stimulation that the brain receives, and it actually can calm your nervous system, which is very different for a neurotypical brain. So if you drink caffeine and get really jittery, you probably have a neurotypical brain. If you drink caffeine and feel a little more focused, you might have a neurodivergent brain or a brain that has ADHD.
That's an interesting
possibly.
Litmus test. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's not, blanketed yes or no, but that's just an interesting gauge.
Yeah. So ADHD can be tag teamed with anxiety, but also a lot of people with ADHD can also have symptoms of depression as well, because they're feeling like self-doubt, they're not feeling as productive, they maybe not feel as connected with others because of having challenges with focusing or challenges with, being productive. And so there can be a lot of self-esteem concerns there too. So with ADHD, always talk to a doctor, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a counselor, if those are some of the things you're curious about. But for all of us, I think in the home, creating systems where there's less things stimulating us. And so we love to have things that are helpful and useful in the home.
Yes.
But sometimes not everything is helpful and useful, and it becomes overwhelming. So I know in my house, it happens very easily with my son's toys. He loves to play with toys. However, I need him to put the toys away so my brain is not as overwhelmed, overstressed, and can calm down.
And I think that's something that is really hard for moms especially.
Right.
Is it's like as you're managing the household and things that are going on, and even if you have a partner who's great and supportive in helping out, sometimes it's statistically been proven that women are more sensitive to the physical environment. So
Right. And for women especially, and I don't know exactly why it's women, but women are more sensitive to physical environments. And if a physical environment has too much physical stuff in it, the cortisol, which is a stress hormone, goes up. And then with that, there's more stress, there's more anxiety, there's more irritability that happens. So having a home for all of the things in your home. So if you have toys, where do the toys go?
Right.
Can they be put away, or are they just out all of the time? Or if you have shoes, everyone wears shoes in the United States, in most countries. Some people don't like shoes in their homes, or if they want to have a place for a drop zone. So having a home for the shoes in your house, for one, for you to be able to find it later, and two, for you to say, okay, there's some order to the space.
I think that exactly hits the nail on the head of why women have, relate to the physical or are affected more by the physical space.
Yes.
Because everybody's like, Mom, where's this? Mom, where's that?
The mental load.
Yes. And have you seen the phrase where it's like, it's not truly lost until mom can't find it? It's because moms are trying to keep track of everything, and there's baseball practice, and the cleats are there, and this thing's here, and where's my husband's wallet, and trying to maintain all of that. So to your point,
Yes.
definitely the systems,
Yes.
automate as much as possible, stick to routines. Definitely can help. Yeah.
And having, talking about like the when are these events happening, what time does practice start, when is school out, when is early dismissal, or when is husband's meeting, who's going out of town for
when's
business.
the girls trip so you can get a break?
When is the girls trip? I need the girls trip. But having a visual calendar, having something that you share, either, if you have a partner, you can have like a Google calendar you share, you can have like a digital calendar you share, but also having a visual calendar for the children or other people in the home, for like a whole family calendar, can be really helpful. So instead of when is this, go look at the calendar, and creating routine for them to put things on the calendar, important events, important meetings. And that can be really helpful for those with the ADHD brain, or for those who just like to have a little bit more of that community cohesive planning.
Well, I think it's also helpful for, the moms or the parents who are having to try and keep track of that. And if you can say to your child, hey, go look at the calendar, that's one less thing your brain has to keep track of.
And I will tell people a lot of times in counseling, instead of trying to keep it up here all the time, just write it down. Like, even if it's a to-do list, write it down and it's visually there so that your brain can have that relief of mentally keeping up with all of the things. I know for me personally, there's a lot of things on my list for being a mom, for being a business owner, for being a therapist, for, family events. So I love a good written paper calendar planner. I love to open it and see like the whole month at a time if I can. But even if it's like my to-do list for the day or like a grocery list, if it's written down, I feel less irritable, less stressed, less nervous or anxious about that.
And then you get the joy of scratching it out and checking it off.
And crumbling it up and throwing it in the wastebasket.
A little hook shot if you're fancy.
Yeah, we got some fancy people with some lists. But also, like, I think that it's also important of just having like daily routines. And so for me, we've talked about it a ton, but it's so helpful for me. I empty my sink at home every night into the dishwasher or hand wash, the things that cannot be in the dishwasher. And that is my routine every night. That is helpful for me, and I do that automatically. It's a habit that's built in so that there's less that builds up in the sink later in the day, later in the week. Other things, I have my little boy pick out his clothes every night, the night before we go to school or church or have an event. He also helps me with events like whenever we go on a trip, he loves to help, pack his bags. Yes. He has his own bag that he packs with all of his books or toys he wants. I give him a little carry-on. Whatever fits in can go. I don't check it unless, making sure there's not food or things that we shouldn't have in there with toys and get sticky. But I think it's really good to let other people have a chance to contribute to.
Yes.
Letting other people have responsibility, learning those organizational skills. Even if your child or your partner or yourself do have ADHD, everyone is capable of starting new routines, of starting habits that can be helpful for them to implement.
Yeah, one tip too, I may have said on the podcast before. So my eldest son does have a diagnosis of ADHD, and mornings were really, they're rough, to say the least. And, trying to get out the door, it was just on time was a rarity. And so we found that just not doing pajamas and just wearing our clothes that we're going to wear to school the next day to sleep in, that saved us like anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes right there. So that was a game changer for us.
And it's really picking and choosing your battles. Yes. It may not be your first choice for your child to sleep in their clothes the night before. However, if it's a system that works for them, and I have some rules, if you're not hurting yourself, if you're not hurting others, if you're not damaging property, and you feel good about it, let them do it, And so giving your child a little bit of responsibility for even doing some problem solving like that.
Yeah.
I think it's really helpful for the executive functioning to do some critical thinking, to do some problem solving, to take on ownership of, a routine or an activity or a chore at home.
Yeah.
Can be really helpful for not only the home itself, but less on you as a parent, but also building their confidence, because a lot of people who do have an ADHD diagnosis have a lot of, lower self-esteem. They're not feeling as capable, and that can give them the confidence to practice that.
And I know you hit on some, routines and scheduling and things like that, but we're going into the holiday season. There's usually an influx of lots of toys. So how can toys and kids, specifically in their environments, whether it's, how their bedroom should be set up or how their playroom should be set up, what ways can those with ADHD really help simplify that overstimulation in their spaces?
So I will say I love having extra things that, make my life fun or easy, all the extra cooking tools or maybe the extra like lotions or perfumes. So it is a big thing for us to actually reduce how many things we have in a certain area, or if it has a home like we talked about. So I am a little bit of a proponent, and this is not works for everybody, but I say the bedroom should be for sleeping, not for working and playing. And so that's not always possible for everybody. But if you can have the toys in a separate space, that will also help with the bedtime routine or your children waking up at night or having the urge to go and play with things instead of sleeping. The same thing for us at home.
Yes.
If you are working remotely or if you have a home office, try your best to not have your desk or workspace in your sleeping space, because your brain can associate this is for working time, and you really want your bedroom to be for sleeping if you can.
It's always nice to be able to just shut the door and hide work, and you can really shut your brain off.
Well, and if you can, if there's cabinets or, drawers or something, you can put things away and hide them, even if it is in your bedroom for a child and their play toys and stuff. Having it behind a door, it also kind of contains that, and it's less clutter, less things that they want to get into.
Yeah. Just less visual stimulation in general.
And I will say we love toys and buying things. Oh my gosh, my kid has too many toys, I know.
It's America, they all do.
I think, so many toys, but those who have ADHD actually will be more satisfied or more content with less things, because too many things to play with, they're going to be like, I don't know what to play with. And then a lot of times, I am also a play therapist. Kids who are overwhelmed, they start to do things like dumping their toys out and then not picking them up because it's too much. Or they don't want to clean up their toys because there's too many toys to clean up after they've played. So if you're noticing those kind of habits of my child really doesn't feel comfortable organizing these things, it's too much for them, or they're not even playing with it, they're just dumping the toys out and then moving on, that may be a signal for you that we just need less toys, or less of, maybe we don't need 55 different toys, maybe we need 25 different toys.
Right.
Maybe we don't need 1,000 Lego blocks, maybe we need 200 Lego blocks. And so those are just things that for you as a family need to, kind of look into and see
what works.
How to help your child.
And one thing that worked for us too was the toy rotation and rotating toys. And I know sometimes people don't have the time to do that as much, but I found it was really worthwhile to take that 20 minutes once a week, switch out the toys, then everything's new and fresh. They can actually see what's there instead of just, because we used to just have bins full of stuff. And to your point, it'd be like, I can't find something, it gets dumped out.
Oh, yes.
Whereas if I have one or two toys on each shelf, that's all there is, and they can easily see it. They easily know where it goes back. And I found that really helped in our household.
And for those who do have an ADHD diagnosis, novelty is something their brain is seeking. So there is a dopamine deficiency in the ADHD brain. So they're seeking newness, they're seeking satisfaction, they're seeking fun. So if they have the same toy for 3 years and they're not playing with it, maybe if we took that toy out, brought a different toy in, that would be novelty. But they also want to maybe have things that aren't as, making a lot of noises. And I, as a play therapist, if you want your child to explore and play, there's lots of wonderful toys and fun, entertaining things. But for younger kids, I say toys that don't flash, that can be overstimulating, and toys that don't make a lot of noises unless they are musical instruments. Because then they can use creativity, they can use problem solving, they can start to make their own things up instead of having something entertaining them and stimulating them. They get to create a story or create play with those things, which is using that executive functioning that a lot of children and adults with ADHD are having challenges with. So screens are a really great thing for entertaining us as well. So if you are a person who is diagnosed with ADHD, less screen time, and making sure that our daily routine doesn't start with a screen. So if your first habit is to get up and check your phone, your brain is getting dopamine, and it's going to seek dopamine now again and again and again for the day. So if you can start your day with a task like, I'm brushing my teeth, or I'm picking out my clothes, or I'm, reading a book or something like that instead of a screen, your brain will be more calm and grounded to start the day.
Very good tip. I mean, I think that's a good tip for everybody.
Everybody. Yes. Yeah. But I do think, having those daily routines of decluttering, or those 20 minutes of cleaning up, or creating a nighttime ritual to kind of end the day, close the day, make sure you're feeling comfortable with where your home is. And it might be a weekly routine if you don't have the time every single day, but maybe Monday I'm doing sweeping, and Tuesday is the trash, and Wednesday I'm doing the dishes. Having something where you feel productive, and it's something that's realistic, and something that's going to help you feel a little bit more in control of your space.
Yes. And another helpful thing too is, setting alarms and having goal setting that way. So maybe if you don't have enough time to, clean this whole room, or you're trying to take on a task that's too large, just set a timer for 20 minutes. Do what you can do, and you'll still feel accomplished because you're able to get that 20 minutes of time.
Yeah, that's actually called the Pomodoro.
Yes.
So the Pomodoro technique is where we're giving ourselves a set amount of time and then stepping away. And that can be really good too, because I'm kind of focused, but then if those with the ADHD mind that don't have a lot of attention span, or can't really focus for a long amount of time, that gives you a little bit of expectation and accountability with an alarm, and you can step back and say, oh, look what I did do in 20 minutes, and then I can step away. And if I feel comfortable enough, start another 20-minute alarm later and do that.
And I think that's such a great confidence builder too, because I know I myself have been like, I only have 20 minutes, I can't get a lot done. And then after you actually do it, you're like, oh, I can actually get quite a bit done in 20 minutes.
Yes. And so I've talked about this before, but I love being time efficient. It's like one of my personal,
it's a game.
Exciting,
Yes.
accomplishing games. It is my dopamine hit. And so, if I have 10 minutes, I've learned that it doesn't take but 10 minutes to start a load of laundry. It doesn't take but 10 minutes to unload the dishwasher. It doesn't take 10 minutes but to make sure the dogs have food and fresh water. So even with that, if I just have 10 minutes, and I also go, I felt good to get it done. It's one less thing on my...
Give a thumbs up. Oh, you double thumbs up, you get explosions and fireworks. This is fancy. Sorry, we got sidetracked with animations. No, it didn't do it that time. They're like, nope, one per episode.
Sorry, I'm trying to get it to go. But making sure when you get those things accomplished, your brain will say, oh, I've done that. I want to do that again. And that can feel really great for you to say, the few things I've accomplished on my 5 things on my to-do list this day, and then you get to rest. And so we want to encourage you, if you feel like you do have symptoms of ADHD, to reach out to your doctor. reach out to a counselor or reach out to somebody who can give you a questionnaire to explore that a little further. There are a lot of really wonderful tools and tips. There's also additional resources like medication. You get to decide as an individual what you want to work with and how you want to help yourself with these challenges. But just because you do have a challenge with focus or a challenge with, staying organized, don't go down the rabbit hole of, oh my gosh, all these things wrong with me until we talk to a professional. Because again, a lot of people will misdiagnose themselves, self-diagnose, and then that can create an unneeded challenge for yourself whenever really I just need to have some strategies or tools built into my day.
Yes. And I will say, speaking from someone with a family member with ADHD and coming from a background of loving lots of things in my space, and I love being overstimulated by lots of items and decor, I have found that by taking a step back and taking some of those things out of the room, simplifying our space, simplifying our routines, while it's not always what I would want, it helps the flow of my home so much more that is worth the cost of it. So it's worth much more to have the smoothness of the running of my home than it is that extra pillow on the sofa or the extra banner on the wall or the extra tchotchke somewhere. So,
and I will say, having the extras every now and again, great, but make sure it works for you and the benefit of your family too. So it may be, the extra decorations for Christmas time, but I don't have to decorate for, summer 4th of July and for Valentine's Day and for Easter and for St. Patrick's Day. Maybe I pick and choose how much I decorate or when I decorate as well.
Yes. The rule in our house is it can't hinder the daily functionality of the home. So as long as it's not hindering that, and I find decorating outside, so like putting something on my door is a great way to just bring in that little bit of seasonality, but it doesn't come into the home and affect the daily flow. So, yeah. So October, ADHD Awareness Month. And if you are going down that rabbit hole on the internet, I know there's some of you out there who are self-diagnosing. Make sure you go talk to a professional if you're really worried or really want to address the problems or the needs that you feel are keeping you from staying focused. So, but till next time, we'll see you then.
See you then. And if you like our content or have questions for us, let us know. And we'll see you soon.